Ladies and gentlemen, imagine a world where the most authentic, meaningful connections come naturally to you, not because you're chasing approval, but because you radiate self-respect and purpose. This isn't about games or manipulation. It's about becoming the kind of person who naturally inspires admiration, trust, and love from the best kind of men. You see, we live in a time where chaos often overshadows clarity, and many struggle to define what they want or who they are. But in the midst of this confusion, there are women who stand out. These women don't just attract the best men, they elevate everyone around them. Why? Because they've mastered habits that align with their deepest values and call others to rise to their potential. Today, we'll uncover 4 habits that will transform not just how you are perceived, but how you perceive yourself. These habits are not tricks or shortcuts. They are principles rooted in responsibility, courage, and integrity. So let me ask you, are you ready to take responsibility for the quality of your relationships and embrace the journey toward becoming your strongest, most authentic self? Let's begin with a fundamental truth. You cannot attract the best kind of partner, let alone sustain a meaningful relationship, if you don't first respect yourself. Self-respect isn't something you can fake, nor is it something you can borrow from someone else's validation. It must be cultivated, earned, and embodied. It's not a gift. It's a responsibility. Self-respect starts with the recognition that your life matters. It matters not because someone else told you it does, but because it's your life, and you have been given the profound burden and privilege of shaping it. That means acknowledging the truth about who you are, and where you need to go. It's about staring honestly at your flaws and your potential and saying, I am going to take responsibility for this. Because until you respect yourself enough to confront your own chaos, you'll never command the respect of others, not genuinely anyway. Why is this so important in the context of relationships? Because people who lack self-respect send out a signal. It's not something you can hide. It leaks out in the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you allow others to treat you. If you don't believe you are worthy of being treated with dignity and kindness, others will mirror that belief. Conversely, when you stand tall and live as though you matter, you set a standard, not just for yourself, but for how others should engage with you. Now, you might say, well, isn't this self-respect just arrogance dressed up as virtue? And that's an important question. But no, arrogance and self-respect are worlds apart. Arrogance is hollow. It's an overcompensation for insecurity. It screams, look at me, while trembling underneath. Self-respect, on the other hand, is quiet. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't beg for approval. It simply is. It's grounded. It says, I know who I am. I know my worth. And I will not compromise that worth, not for anyone, not for anything. This is not a call to perfection, far from it. Self-respect doesn't mean you have to have your entire life together before you can be in a healthy relationship. It doesn't mean you need to achieve some mythical ideal of beauty, success, or flawlessness. But it does mean you have to be honest with yourself. You must strive to align your actions with your values. You must be willing to look at your life and ask, am I acting in a way that reflects my worth? Am I building habits, relationships, and pursuits that affirm my value, or am I sabotaging myself? This is where the hard work comes in. Self-respect isn't a feeling, it's a discipline. It's waking up every day and doing the things that are difficult but necessary to maintain your integrity. It's about showing up for yourself, even when no one else is looking. It's about keeping promises you make to yourself. You said you'd exercise today? Do it. You said you'd stop tolerating toxic behavior? Follow through. These small acts of discipline compound over time. They build a fortress of self-respect, brick by brick. And let me tell you, that fortress matters. Because life is not easy. Relationships are not easy. You will encounter rejection, disappointment, and heartbreak. You will be tested. And when those tests come, the question will be, will you crumble or will you stand? The answer to that question depends largely on how firmly your foundation of self-respect has been laid. It's also worth noting that self-respect is contagious. People are drawn to those who carry themselves with quiet confidence and dignity. There's a magnetic quality to someone who knows who they are and isn't afraid to live accordingly. It doesn't mean you'll be everyone's cup of tea. That's not the goal. But the people you do attract will be the kind of people who value you for who you truly are, not for some mask you're wearing to gain approval. So what does this look like in practice? It means setting boundaries and enforcing them. It means refusing to tolerate disrespect, even if it comes from someone you care about. It means being honest about your needs and desires, rather than twisting yourself into a pretzel to make someone else happy. It means pursuing your passions and interests, not to impress anyone, but because they bring you joy and fulfillment. Some of you might be thinking, that sounds hard, that sounds lonely, and yes, it can be. Respecting yourself sometimes means walking away from situations and people who don't align with your values. It can mean enduring periods of solitude while you build the kind of life that reflects your worth. But let me ask you this. What's the alternative? To stay in situations that diminish you? To surround yourself with people who don't see your value? That's not a life. That's a slow erosion of your soul. When you cultivate self-respect, you're not just preparing yourself to attract a high-quality partner, you're preparing yourself to live a high-quality life. And that's the real prize here. Great relationship is not the goal, it's the byproduct of becoming the best version of yourself. So start there. Start with you. Stand up straight. Speak the truth. Do the hard things. Respect yourself first, and the rest will follow. If the foundation of self-respect is where your journey begins, then emotional intelligence is the framework that allows you to build meaningful and lasting connections. It is the skill that transforms interactions from shallow and transactional to profound and life-giving. Emotional intelligence isn't just a luxury for those who want better relationships. It's a necessity. Without it, you'll struggle to understand yourself, let alone the complexities of another person. What do we mean by emotional intelligence? At its core, it's the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your emotions, as well as the capacity to empathize with and respond effectively to the emotions of others. In simpler terms, it's about knowing what you feel, why you feel it, and how to use that awareness constructively, not destructively. It's about learning to listen, not just with your ears, but with your entire being, to the unspoken currents that run beneath words and actions. Now, you might ask, why is this so important in relationships, particularly if I already have good intentions? The answer is this: good intentions are not enough. Relationships aren't built on intentions. They're built on understanding. You might want to connect, to nurture, to love deeply. But if you cannot understand your emotions or the emotions of your partner, those good intentions will often miss the mark. Worse, they can even backfire. Consider this: how many arguments have spiraled out of control because one or both parties misinterpreted the other's words or actions? How often have conflicts arisen not from what was said, but from how it was said, or from what wasn't said at all? These are not issues of malice. They're issues of emotional blindness. And without emotional intelligence, you're likely to find yourself stumbling through a minefield of misunderstandings, no matter how much you care. The first step in developing emotional intelligence is self-awareness. You must be willing to confront your own emotions, even the uncomfortable ones. Anger, jealousy, fear, sadness. These are not enemies to be vanquished, but messengers to be understood. They are signals telling you something about your needs, your values, or your wounds. To ignore them is to cut yourself off from your own inner compass. But to pay attention to them, to sit with them without judgment, is to begin the process of self-mastery. And here's the thing: self-awareness breeds self-regulation. When you understand your emotions, you're less likely to be controlled by them. Instead of lashing out in anger or retreating in fear, you can pause, reflect, and choose your response. This doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or pretending they don't exist. That's a recipe for disaster. It means acknowledging them, understanding them, and then deciding how to act in a way that aligns with your values and long-term goals. This is especially crucial in relationships. Imagine a disagreement with your partner. Without emotional intelligence, you might react impulsively, saying things you don't mean, or shutting down entirely. But with emotional intelligence, you can step back, recognize the emotions at play, both yours and theirs, and respond in a way that de-escalates the conflict and fosters understanding. Now, emotional intelligence isn't just about managing your own emotions. It's also about empathy, stepping into someone else's world and seeing it through their eyes. This doesn't mean you have to agree with them or abandon your own perspective. It means recognizing that their feelings, their experiences, and their perspectives are valid, even if they differ from yours. Empathy is the bridge that connects two people. And without it, relationships become barren, transactional, and cold. But empathy is not easy. It requires humility. It demands that you set aside your ego and your need to be right. It asks you to listen, not just to the words someone is saying, but to the emotions behind those words. What are they really trying to communicate? What do they need in this moment? And how can you respond in a way that honors their humanity? This brings us to another critical component of emotional intelligence: effective communication. Too often we assume that others should just know what we're feeling or thinking. But that's a dangerous assumption. Clear, honest communication is the lifeblood of any healthy relationship. It means expressing your feelings and needs in a way that invites understanding, not defensiveness. It means asking questions, seeking clarity, and being willing to have uncomfortable but necessary conversations. You might be thinking, this all sounds like a lot of work, and you're right, it is. Emotional intelligence doesn't come naturally to most of us. It requires practice, patience, and a willingness to fail and try again. But the rewards are worth it. When you cultivate emotional intelligence, you don't just improve your relationships, you improve your life. You become someone who can navigate the complexities of human connection with grace, resilience, and wisdom. This isn't just about attracting the best kind of men, although that will certainly be a byproduct. It's about becoming the best version of yourself, someone who can engage deeply with the world, someone who can weather the storms of life without losing their center. Emotional intelligence is not just a skill, it's a way of being. It's a commitment to understanding yourself and others, to choosing connection over isolation, and to living with integrity and compassion. Now that we've explored the vital role of emotional intelligence, let's move forward to the next essential habit. Because while understanding and managing emotions is critical, it is only part of the picture. Relationships thrive not just on connection, but also on shared vision and purpose. If self-respect is the foundation and emotional intelligence is the framework, then vision and purpose are the guiding lights that shape the structure of your life and relationships. Without a clear sense of direction, without something meaningful to aim for, life becomes a chaotic drift. And when you drift, you attract people who are also adrift. Partners who lack clarity, who bring confusion rather than stability, and who cannot contribute to your journey because they have not defined their own. Let's start with an uncomfortable truth. You cannot rely on another person to give your life meaning. You cannot expect a relationship to fill the void left by a lack of purpose. Relationships can enhance a purposeful life, but they cannot replace it. When you lack a sense of direction, you place an undue burden on your partner, expecting them to anchor you to make up for what you haven't yet cultivated in yourself. That's not love, it's dependency. And dependency in its unhealthy forms is corrosive. Vision and purpose begin with asking yourself some fundamental questions. Who am I? What do I want out of life? What kind of person do I aspire to be? These are not easy questions, and they cannot be answered overnight. They require deep introspection, courage, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about yourself. But without these questions, you're merely reacting to life rather than shaping it. And if you don't know where you're going, how can you possibly expect to attract someone who wants to walk that path with you? The beauty of purpose is that it gives you a reason to strive, to grow, to push beyond your comfort zone. It aligns your actions with your values, creating a sense of coherence and integrity in your life. When you have purpose, you radiate a quiet confidence that others find deeply attractive. It's not about being perfect or having everything figured out. It's about being on a journey, about knowing that you're moving towards something meaningful and inviting others to join you in that pursuit. But here's the critical point. Your vision and purpose must be your own. They cannot be borrowed from society, your family, or your peers. They cannot be dictated by the latest trends or by what others expect of you. True purpose arises from within, from the unique combination of your talents, passions, and experiences. It's deeply personal, and it requires you to listen to that quiet, persistent voice inside you that says, "This is who I am. This is what I'm here to do." When you discover that purpose, something extraordinary happens. You begin to attract people who resonate with your vision, people who share your values, who admire your strength, and who are inspired by your determination. These are the relationships that uplift and transform you. They are built on mutual respect, shared goals, and a sense of partnership in the pursuit of something greater than yourselves. Now, let's address a common misconception. Some people think that having a strong sense of purpose makes you rigid, unyielding, or self-centered. But that's not true. A true vision is not a straitjacket, it's a compass. It doesn't dictate every step you take, but it ensures that you're moving in the right direction. And it doesn't exclude others. In fact, it invites them to join you. A purposeful life is not a solitary one. It's a life enriched by meaningful connections, by the shared pursuit of dreams and ideals. Purpose also provides resilience in the face of challenges. Relationships are not easy. They test your patience, your commitment, and your ability to adapt. Without a sense of purpose, it's easy to lose your way during these trials. You might compromise your values to keep the peace, or you might abandon the relationship altogether because you lack the clarity to navigate conflict. But when you have a vision, you have something to anchor you. You can approach challenges with a sense of perspective, knowing that they are part of a larger journey. And this resilience, this ability to stay grounded in the face of adversity, is one of the most attractive qualities you can possess. Purpose also helps you avoid the trap of superficial relationships. In a world obsessed with appearances, it's easy to get caught up in the pursuit of partners who look good on paper but lack depth and substance. But when you have a clear sense of what matters to you, you're less likely to be swayed by surface-level qualities. You'll seek out partners who share your values, who support your vision, and who challenge you to grow. And in doing so, you'll create a relationship that is not only fulfilling, but also enduring. So how do you cultivate vision and purpose? Start small. You don't need to have your entire life mapped out today. Begin by identifying one or two areas where you want to grow or contribute. Maybe it's your career, your community, your health, or your creativity. Set goals that align with your values and take consistent steps toward them. And remember, purpose is not static. It evolves as you do. What matters is that you're moving forward, that you're actively engaging with life rather than passively waiting for it to happen to you. As you do this, pay attention to the people you attract. Purpose acts like a filter. It reveals who is aligned with your path and who is not. This doesn't mean you should judge or dismiss others, but it does mean you should be discerning. Not everyone is meant to walk your path, and that's okay. The right people, the ones who respect your vision and share your values, will recognize your purpose and want to be a part of it. Vision and purpose are not just about finding the right partner, they're about becoming the right partner. They're about creating a life that is so rich, so meaningful, that others can't help but be drawn to it. And when you live with that kind of clarity and intention, you don't just attract the best kind of partner, you inspire them to become the best version of themselves. With this understanding of vision and purpose, we now turn to the next habit, one that ensures you can weather life's inevitable storms with grace and strength. Life is a battleground, and no meaningful relationship will ever be entirely free of challenges. In fact, it is precisely through these challenges that the depth and strength of a relationship are forged. This is why resilience and inner strength are not optional. A resilient person is like a tree with deep roots. No matter how fierce the storm, they remain grounded, bending but never breaking. This is the kind of person who not only attracts the best partners, but also builds relationships that endure. Let's start with a fundamental premise. Life is suffering. This is not a statement of despair, but of reality. Everyone you meet is carrying a burden, facing trials seen and unseen. You will not escape pain in this life, nor will your partner. The question is not whether difficulties will come, they will. The question is whether you have the fortitude to face them with courage, integrity, and grace. Because if you cannot endure the trials of life, you will crumble when the inevitable challenges of a relationship arise. And they will arise. Resilience begins with a mindset, a refusal to view yourself as a victim. It's true that terrible things can happen to good people. You may face betrayal, loss, or heartbreak. But how you respond to those events defines who you are. Victimhood is a seductive trap. It absolves you of responsibility, but it also strips you of your power. Resilience, by contrast, is an act of defiance. It says, I will not be defeated by this. I will rise, no matter how many times I fall. This is not to say that resilience means suppressing your emotions or pretending that pain doesn't exist. Far from it. True resilience requires you to confront your suffering head-on. You must allow yourself to grieve, to feel anger, sadness, and disappointment. But you cannot allow those emotions to consume you. Resilience is about finding the strength to process your pain and then move forward. It's about saying, this happened and it hurt, but it will not define me. Inner strength is closely tied to this process. To develop it, you must cultivate habits that reinforce your sense of agency and control. This means taking responsibility for your actions and your choices, even when circumstances seem unfair. It means building the discipline to persevere through discomfort and uncertainty. And it means surrounding yourself with people who challenge you to grow rather than enabling your weaknesses. Now, why is this so important in relationships? Because a resilient person brings stability to the table. They are not easily shaken by the ups and downs of life. They do not fall apart when things don't go their way. Instead, they remain calm, grounded, and focused on solutions. This is incredibly attractive, not because it's glamorous, but because it's reliable. The best partners are those who can weather the storms with you, not abandon ship at the first sign of trouble. Resilience also fosters independence, and independence is vital in a healthy relationship. Dependency in its unhealthy forms erodes trust and respect. If you cannot stand on your own 2 feet, you will lean too heavily on your partner, creating an imbalance that breeds resentment. But when you are resilient, you bring strength to the relationship. You are not looking for someone to complete you. You are looking for someone to walk alongside you as an equal. Let's not overlook another key aspect of resilience, adaptability. Life is unpredictable, and no relationship progresses exactly as planned. There will be detours, setbacks, and surprises. Resilience allows you to adapt without losing your sense of purpose or identity. It enables you to approach change not as a threat, but as an opportunity for growth. And this adaptability is essential not just for navigating the challenges of a relationship, but for thriving in an ever-changing world. How then do you cultivate resilience and inner strength? Start by embracing small challenges. Seek out discomfort, not recklessly, but intentionally. Push yourself to do things that are difficult but meaningful. This could be as simple as waking up early to exercise, tackling a fear you've been avoiding, or having a difficult conversation you've been putting off. Each time you face a challenge and overcome it, you strengthen your capacity to handle adversity. Another powerful practice is gratitude. This might sound counterintuitive. How does gratitude make you resilient? The answer lies in perspective. Gratitude forces you to acknowledge the good in your life, even when things are difficult. It reminds you that no matter how dark the moment, there is still light. And this perspective is crucial for resilience. It prevents you from being consumed by negativity and helps you maintain hope. Resilience is deeply connected to purpose. As we discussed earlier, when you have a clear sense of why you are living, you can endure almost any how. Purpose gives you the strength to persevere, even when the odds seem insurmountable. It anchors you in the belief that your struggles are not meaningless, that they are part of a larger journey towards something greater. Resilience and inner strength are not just personal virtues, they are relational necessities. A resilient person can offer support without losing themselves, face conflict without falling apart, and contribute to a partnership built on mutual respect and trust. They are the kind of person who inspires their partner to be stronger, not weaker. And here's the most extraordinary thing about resilience. It is not innate, it is learned. You are not born with a fixed amount of strength. You build it through your choices, your habits, and your mindset. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to grow stronger. Every setback is a chance to prove to yourself that you can rise again. With this understanding of resilience and inner strength, let us now turn to the next habit. Because while personal strength is critical, relationships also demand generosity, compassion, and a willingness to give. If resilience and inner strength provide the backbone for navigating life's difficulties, generosity and compassion are the lifeblood of human connection. They are the virtues that transform relationships from transactional exchanges into profound and transformative experiences. Without these qualities, even the strongest of individuals can become cold, isolated, and disconnected. But with them, you can cultivate bonds that are not only enduring, but also deeply fulfilling. Generosity is not merely about giving material things, though that has its place. True generosity is about giving of yourself, your time, your attention, your energy, and most importantly, your understanding. It is the willingness to put another person's needs ahead of your own, not out of obligation, but out of a genuine desire to contribute to their well-being. Generosity says, I see you, I value you, I am here to support you, not because I must, but because I choose to. Compassion, closely intertwined with generosity, is the ability to see and respond to the suffering of others. It is an act of courage because it requires you to confront the reality of pain, both theirs and your own. It demands vulnerability, humility, and a willingness to step outside your own perspective to truly understand someone else's experience. Compassion says, your pain matters to me. I may not have all the answers, but I am here to walk alongside you. These qualities are not just nice to have, they are essential for any meaningful relationship. Think about it. How can you expect to build trust, intimacy, or mutual respect without generosity and compassion? Without these virtues, relationships become shallow and self-serving, mere arrangements of convenience rather than profound connections. But when you embody generosity and compassion, you create an environment where love, trust, and understanding can flourish. The first step in cultivating these virtues is recognizing that they require effort. They do not come naturally, at least not consistently. We are all, to some extent, self-centered creatures. We are wired to prioritize our own needs, our own survival. This isn't inherently bad, it's part of being human. But if left unchecked, this self-centeredness can become a barrier to connection. Generosity and compassion require you to override this instinct, to consciously choose to give even when it's inconvenient, even when it doesn't directly benefit you. Let's explore what this looks like in practice. Generosity begins with attentiveness. You cannot give meaningfully if you don't know what the other person needs. This means listening not just to their words, but to their unspoken signals. What are they feeling? What are they struggling with? What would bring them joy? The simple act of paying attention is itself a form of generosity because it says, you matter to me. From attentiveness flows action. Generosity is not passive, it is active. It might mean offering a kind word when someone is feeling down, sharing your time to help with a problem, or simply being present when they need someone to lean on. It doesn't have to be grand or elaborate. Often the most meaningful acts of generosity are the small, consistent ones. Showing up, staying present, and offering support without expecting anything in return. Compassion, too, is an active process. It begins with empathy, the ability to feel with someone else, to step into their shoes and experience their emotions as if they were your own. But it doesn't stop there. Compassion moves beyond empathy to action. It asks, how can I alleviate your suffering? How can I make your burden lighter, even if only for a moment? This might mean offering comfort, practical assistance, or simply holding space for someone to express their pain without judgment. Now, some might argue that generosity and compassion make you vulnerable to being taken advantage of. And it's true, there is a risk. But this is where discernment comes in. True generosity is not about enabling someone else's irresponsibility or sacrificing your own well-being for the sake of others. It is about giving in a way that is wise, intentional, and aligned with your values. It is about recognizing the difference between helping and rescuing, between supporting and enabling. Generosity and compassion are not one-way streets. When practiced authentically, they inspire reciprocity. People are drawn to those who give freely and love deeply, and they often respond in kind. This creates a positive cycle, a virtuous circle where giving and receiving flow naturally and abundantly. But even when generosity is not immediately reciprocated, it is never wasted. It enriches your character, strengthens your relationships, and contributes to a more compassionate world. There's another profound aspect to consider. Generosity and compassion are not just for others. They are also for yourself. You cannot pour from an empty cup. If you are not generous and compassionate with yourself, if you do not tend to your own needs, forgive your own mistakes, and care for your own well-being, you will eventually burn out. Self-compassion is not selfish. It is the foundation from which all other compassion flows. It says, I am worthy of care and kindness just as much as anyone else. In relationships, generosity and compassion act as a balm for inevitable conflicts and misunderstandings. They remind you to approach disagreements with curiosity rather than defensiveness, to seek understanding rather than victory. They enable you to extend grace when your partner falls short, just as you hope they will do for you. And they create a sense of safety, a sanctuary where both partners feel seen, valued, and loved. These virtues are not about perfection. You will not always get it right. There will be times when you fail to be generous, when your compassion falls short. That's okay. What matters is the willingness to try, to keep striving, to give more, love more, and understand more. Generosity and compassion are practices, not destinations. They are habits that grow stronger with intention and effort. If generosity and compassion are the heartbeat of a thriving relationship, then a commitment to growth and continuous improvement is its steady pulse. It ensures that the bond between two people doesn't stagnate but evolves, deepens, and becomes richer with time. This commitment is not just about the relationship itself, but about the individuals within it, both striving to become better versions of themselves. Without this dedication, relationships become fragile, easily fractured by the inevitable challenges of life. But with it, they become robust, dynamic, and enduring. Growth at its core requires humility. It begins with the recognition that you are not perfect, that you have flaws, blind spots, and weaknesses. This might seem obvious, but it is astonishing how resistant we can be to this truth. We often cling to the illusion of our own adequacy, not out of arrogance, but out of fear. To admit imperfection is to admit vulnerability, and vulnerability can be terrifying. But here's the paradox. Only by embracing your imperfections can you begin to grow. Growth demands honesty with yourself, a willingness to say, I am not yet who I could be, but I am willing to work toward it. This willingness to grow is magnetic. It signals to others that you are not complacent, that you are not content to simply drift through life. It shows that you have ambition, not just in the worldly sense, but in the deeply personal sense of striving to be better, stronger, and more capable. And this ambition is particularly attractive to the best kind of partners, the ones who share your values and your vision for a meaningful life. But what does it mean to grow, practically speaking? It means continually seeking to learn, to expand your understanding of yourself, others, and the world. It means confronting your weaknesses, not with self-loathing, but with a determination to improve. It means cultivating habits that align with your values and discarding those that don't. And it means being open to feedback, even when it's uncomfortable, because feedback is one of the most powerful tools for growth. In the context of a relationship, growth requires a commitment to mutual improvement. This doesn't mean trying to fix your partner. Relationships are not rehabilitation centers, but it does mean supporting each other's journeys toward becoming better individuals. It means holding each other accountable to your shared values and aspirations. It means encouraging your partner to pursue their goals, even when it's inconvenient for you. And it means being willing to grow together, to adapt and evolve as life inevitably changes around you. Continuous improvement also requires discipline, Growth is not a passive process. It does not happen by accident. It requires effort, consistency, and perseverance. There will be days when it feels easier to give up, to settle for mediocrity, to avoid the discomfort of change. But if you want to attract and sustain a meaningful relationship, you must resist this temptation. You must commit to the long, often arduous journey of self-improvement, knowing that the rewards, both for yourself and your relationships, are worth it. One of the most critical aspects of growth is the ability to handle conflict constructively. Every relationship will encounter disagreements, misunderstandings, and moments of tension. These are not signs of failure. They are opportunities for growth. How you handle these moments will determine the strength and health of your relationship. Growth-minded individuals approach conflict not as a battle to be won, but as a challenge to be navigated together. They seek to understand before being understood, to find solutions rather than assign blame. They recognize that conflict, when handled well, can deepen intimacy and strengthen the bond between partners. Another key aspect of growth is the willingness to take responsibility. In a world where it is all too easy to blame others for your problems, responsibility is a radical act. It says, I am not a victim of circumstance. I have the power to influence my life and my relationships. This mindset is transformative. It shifts your focus from what others are doing wrong to what you can do better. And in doing so, it creates a sense of agency, of control over your own destiny. This is a powerful quality to bring to any relationship.